Actually made of white marble solely because it did not conduct heat, so it was a safety feature, and also it looks stunning. This is almost a little look into the history of America and specifically the Industrial Revolution, because this home directly reflects the technology that came about during that time period. So this is the original Otis elevator hydraulic motor right here. It's not in use anymore. If we make our way over here, this is a nice little exhibit on the actual architecture of the house and how the innovation of building with steel enabled them to build structures that they couldn't have done before just on Freemason load-bearing structures. So you have the Eiffel Tower, the Crystal Palace, and the Brooklyn Bridge were three structures that really were forward-thinking and used steel to make things that previously would have never been made. And the innovation of steel is reflected in this house right here. So moving on to plumbing, this home was built in a time when most Americans didn't even have one bathroom. The Breakers has 27 bathrooms, and here's a breakdown of all the water systems that fed the bathroom. So you had the city water, which was not potable here. You had fresh water, which was actually rainwater beneath the terrace in the back. You had 9,000-gallon rainwater collecting barrels underneath the back terrace here for the fresh water, and then you had salt water pumped directly from the ocean into the house, which was all pumped to the fourth floor, and then gravity did its thing, and that's the water system in this house. For the time, very impressive. And the house was actually switched over to geothermal heating fairly recently. And here the tunnels continue. And you have to imagine, we're showing you this tunnels because that's a part of the tour. Imagine the tunnels that are off limits to the public. That's the thing I think of when I come down here. For instance, this is the air convection. So to pump fresh air into the house, these are the actual vents that would do that. And actually we're right below the music room for a little reference of where we're at under the house. More convection right there. This is actually a original icebox here on display with a hand-typed note from one of the descendants saying to keep that because of how historically valuable it was. This is actually very unique. This is a bit of a homage here to the hurricane of, I believe it was 1939, 1938, and this is the graveyard of the damage from that hurricane. And the house obviously survived, but this just shows how extreme that storm was. Of course, the final thing on the lower level is the wine cellar, and I want to point out a date on one of these here. I believe it is this one here. Where's that? Where we at? The 1914 one? Do you know where it is? Yeah. Right here, 1914. And you have to imagine a house of this size in its peak of the fever pitch of the Gilded Age. They probably had daily deliveries of wine. You have to imagine that just given the size of the house and the size of this room, they probably had a daily delivery.
Architecture has always been more than bricks and mortar. It's a reflection of our highest aspirations. Energy and motion frozen in physical form. These designs speak to our longing for balance, harmony, and connection with the divine. By preserving and, more importantly, sharing these works of art, we honor the legacies of those who came before us. Visionaries who built with purpose, but more importantly,